If you've been thinking about moving to Rumson, New Jersey, stick around today's video because you won't want to miss it. We're going to cover everything that you need to know by taking a map tour from the commute to New York City and the 4 different ways on how to do it, to the school districts and why it's great to be living here if you're raising a family, and some of the most luxurious real estate here in Monmouth County. Before we get started though, if it is your first time to the channel, my name is Steve McCutcheon and I'm a realtor at Berkshire Hathaway. And on the Live in Central New Jersey channel, we cover everything related to the Central Jersey real estate market. So if you're going to be the first one to know what's going on in either Monmouth or Ocean County real estate, feel free to click the bell, hit the subscribe button. Let's get this video started. So here's where the rest of the video is going to take place, everybody. So I have an outline of what Rumson is going to be looking like, just in terms of like their actual township. So you can see just the outline here in red. And it's going to border a couple different towns, including Fairhaven and Little Silver to the west. Technically to the east, it's not really connected by land, but you're going to have Seabright as one of the major beach areas and hubs over here. And you're going to have the Navesink River to the north. I guess I probably should be outlining this. So Navesink's going to be up here. And they're going to have a couple different bays in and throughout this area over here. So relatively nice location in terms of where it's at in Monmouth County. I'll give you an idea. More northeastern part. So it is a little bit out of the way for some other areas, but when you're actually going to be commuting to the city, which we'll get to in just a bit, it's in a pretty good spot too. So while yes, the farthest part of Rumson all the way to the northeast is over here, is pretty far compared to where Allentown and maybe Milliston are going to be. So it's a wide range there. It's in a pretty solid location, at least in my opinion. So, and we'll kind of get to that throughout. The amount of residents in Rumson, I don't want to give you a sneak peek too much. About 7,350 residents, 7 square miles for the township itself. 5 of them are which are going to be land, and as you can see with the border over here, you're going to have some with it with the water, and it's going to be about another 2 square miles. So it actually ranks 16th in size out of the 53 municipalities for Monmouth County. So it's definitely, believe it or not, for 7 square miles, actually on the bigger side versus the smaller side with a lot of other towns. But you kind of get that a little bit when you're dealing with so many shore towns and beach towns. I already put the picture away, but when you have Seabright, Monmouth Beach, and all these other ones along the shore, they're not going to be the same size as some of the ones you saw to the western side of Monmouth County either. But kind of a little bit a ballpark about Rumson, and we'll get into it a little bit more. In terms of commute to work, which is a big thing for a lot of people here in New Jersey, because you live here for the overall quality of life, but commute to the city to make a little bit more money. Quite a few options with Rumson. So the first one, obviously, would just be driving yourself, if you want to put that in real fast for you. Easiest route is taking the Garden State Parkway up north and then either getting on the New Jersey Turnpike where they intersect or taking the Parkway up depending on which part of New York City that you have to get to. We're going to go for more of a rush hour time. So let's just say 7 a.m. ballpark range, right? And Google looks to have it down to an hour and 30 minutes. I would say this is relatively pretty accurate. I'd probably say more towards the hour and a half side just because of the typical traffic that you're going to get. And also when you're driving through Rumson to get to the Garden State Parkway, you might hit a little bit more stop and go in this range right here. So the majority of the commute though will actually be relatively pretty smooth. So this entire way up to about right here, that's where you're gonna hit the most amount of traffic. Right, pretty much right when you get to the Newark Airport and a little bit after that, because that's where everyone's trying to enter into the city, and there's only so many different entrances in and bridges that you can possibly take. So that's gonna be a little bit of the tough part. I would put it more towards that hour and a half just to give yourself a little bit of extra time, rush hour traffic, bad weather, accidents, and that kind of thing. Next up, we'll be taking the train. There's not gonna be one inside of Rumson, but in the neighboring town in Red Bank, you're gonna have one. They're going to show it on here for me or no? They do. Perfect. So this line right here, kind of see me outlining it. That's going to be your train. And from the Red Bank location, I would say about an hour and 20 to an hour and a half, depending on which line you're going to hop on and what time of the day. A little bit later in the afternoon, it seems to get a little bit, or the evening seems to be shorter. When you're probably more in that rush hour time frame, looks to be a little bit longer than an hour and a half. But kind of in between an hour and 20 to an hour and a half will be your train destination. And that brings you into Penn Station, which is farther, a little bit farther north in New York City. So if you're one that works in Wall Street, maybe you want a different option, or you're going to end up taking the train and then taking the subway to go further down south. Same thing for, I guess, a little bit different here when it comes to the bus. Now, same location, you're going to have to go into Red Bank, or I guess technically Lincroft. Let me bring it up on a map for you, probably easier to see here. So let's say you're coming from Rumson.
There's going to be a park and ride located over in Red Bank, somewhere right around here, off exit 109 on the Parkway. I'll zoom in for you. Probably outlined, I would imagine. Yep, there we go. So yeah, the park and ride on the Garden State Parkway. I think it's going to be located on this side over here. Yeah. That's going to be an option as well. The nice thing about taking the bus on this sense is you have multiple options, including going into um, Wall Street or Port Authority. So if you're someone that, again, that's going to work in the southern part and you want to get to Wall Street, that might be a better option for you versus going up to Port Authority and then taking the subway back down, right? It'd be kind of pointless driving all the way past it to then come backwards if that is an option potentially. So, but taking the bus actually allows you to get either into the Port Authority or Wall Street stop. So this one might be a better option for you in that sense. In terms of time frame, I don't know if they list it, but to get to Port Authority, I'll just take the short points one. That's going to be the route and kind of give you a ballpark of where we're going to be at. We're looking at Lincroft, so we're going to be on this side, 6 o'clock, and then Port Authority is a 7 o'clock drop off. So you got the bus; they can take a different express routes and get there a little bit faster than driving yourself, and relatively pretty accurate, I would say, right there. But again, maybe Wall Street's a little bit different in terms of at least book an hour for that. But then obviously your commute to and from the bus stops it relatively is about the same as driving yourself, right? I'm obviously it's not going to probably take a half hour to get from Rumson to the parking ride, but unless you timed it up absolutely perfect to where the second you park your car, you're walking onto the bus, and then vice versa when you get into the city, walking from the bus to your job, and your desk is right there. You allow for that little bit of extra time, you're still looking at probably about an hour and a half, I would imagine, at least in total commute time, maybe even a little bit more on that. But those are your main two options. The third option, which some people might take, definitely the more scenic route, would taking the ferry. My apologies, guys. Sorry about that. Late night with the Eagles win last night, opening night. Uh, Three different options with the port. So you're gonna have the Highlands, Atlantic Highlands, and Belford. And obviously, when talking about Rumson, we're gonna be in this location right here. There's going to be a bridge over the little bit of waterway, the Navesink. So you can probably get to the Highlands or Atlantic Highlands relatively pretty easy. I don't know which one might be a little bit closer. I'm sure they're roughly about the same distance apart. And then from there, you can head on into Manhattan, whichever way you want. These are all going to stop right here. And then I think if you want to go, one's going to bring you up the east side. I forget which one from Belford and the Highlands. One's going to bring you up the west side. So then at this Pier 11 stop, you can actually get off whichever one you're going to be on currently and then get over to the other side. So if you're on the one that's going to go up the east side and you need to go up the west, you can switch over there. And then vice versa, you go the west and then go up to the east. The cost is going to be the main thing though with the ferry. So it's definitely going to be your most expensive, at least in my opinion. How do we get there now? I had it pulled up before. There we go. View schedule and fares. Right. So if you're going to be doing this every day, I'd recommend just booking the bulk one. So the 40 trip book there and back, right? So it's talking about 20 day or 20 week or 20-day work week, I guess, in that sense. $720 versus the train and the bus, not gonna be anywhere near that. Monthlies for the train, 533. So you're talking an extra, I don't know, 180-ish dollars and change for taking the ferry versus that, or taking the train. So a little bit more expensive. It is going to be the fastest. So it's about a 45-minute commute into the Wall Street district versus, again, the train's going to be an hour and a half going into Penn Station and then coming back, right? So that extra little bit of money could definitely save you some time in the same port. So I guess it's really depending on what you'd rather do. If you're looking for the cheapest option, train and the bus are going to be roughly about the same. Most expensive option would definitely be taking the ferry. When it comes to driving yourself, as of me making this video at least, the congestion tolling that started in 2025 is still in effect. And I think they're charging like $9 to get into the city on top of all the other tolls you're going to pay while driving from like the Rumson area into the northern part of New Jersey too. So I would imagine the round trip is in that $30 to $40 range when you're commuting every single day. So driving yourself isn't as cheap as it used to be. So you're probably looking at, I would say the train and the bus are probably on par with each other, and then driving might be your next cheapest, and then um, taking the ferry probably the most expensive. The big point of the congestion tolls were to limit the amount of cars and emissions that were coming into New York City, cut down the traffic a little bit, and hopefully speed up everyone's commute. My father-in-law commutes into the city every day. He said at first it definitely started helping a little bit. Now it's probably about the same as what it was, especially we just got through the summertime. So certain days during the summer, if you're coming to or from New Jersey, can be really rough when people are trying to get down to the shore or leave. But in general, that's at least the 4 weeks to commute. Drive yourself, take the train, take the bus, or take the ferry. Next up, in terms of if you want to raise a family here in Rumson, what are the school districts going to look like? Well, Rumson's going to be broken down into two separate ones. You're going to have your K through 8, and then you're going to have your high school. So the Rumson School District will be for the K through 8, rated an A, according to niche.com, which is the site we're on. They're going to have roughly about 925 students, 12 to 1 student teacher ratio. So relatively small class sizes in that aspect. In terms of the schools, you're going to have two different ones. Dean Porter School for elementary and Forestdale School for middle. Once your child moves on to the high school, they're going to attend the Rumson Fairhaven Regional High School. So they're going to take in kids from Rumson and then Fairhaven, which is the neighboring town over that I showed you on the map. It's going to be to the west. They're going to be rated an A plus and the sixth best public high school that we have here in Monmouth County. So the fact that they're rated an A plus and they're still in number 6 is a pretty good sign. We have a lot of strong schools here in Monmouth County, and it's a big reason why a lot of families tend to want to move here. When you're getting into the numbers a little bit more, grades 9 through 12, 10 to 1 student teacher ratio, and about 850 students throughout the 4 grades. So even smaller classes theoretically based on the from the elementary school up into the high school. Now, obviously, not every single class is going to be just 10 kids in general, but for someone that graduated from Freehold Township and it's also regional high school, we had, I think, on average between 500 and 600 per class. So you're talking anywhere between like 2,000 to 2,400 students at a time in there. My class sizes were like 25, 30. I was always used to that size growing up, so I don't know what it would be like to have only about 10 or 15 in a class. It feel kind of weird to me, but I think your child would adjust either way. Either so, even if the class sizes aren't necessarily a 10 to 1 and they're 15 or 20, I'm sure they'd be just fine in that aspect too. But a lot of A's across the board here. The only one that's not is going to be diversity in that aspect. Only ranked at C plus. In terms of location, I would say it's pretty centrally located inside the township, so it's gonna be right in the middle here. But overall, really good school. They had some good sports, at least back in the day. You're talking 15 years ago at this point for me. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got with the Rumson School District. Highly regarded, and a big reason why people are going to pay the price tag that you're going to see in a second for trying to live here. Now, getting into the real estate market for Rumson, it's not going to be like some other townships where you're seeing, a couple hundred listings or anything like that. This is going to be much on a much smaller scale, probably anywhere between about 15 to 30 at a max at a given time. They have it right now. This is directly from our MLS. They have it at about 21 active listings. Might be a little delayed based on their last previous day, so we'll see. Might only be like 15 or so, but regardless, somewhere in that range currently right now. Absorption rate is one of the bigger numbers to look at. That's the next one down here. They have it about like a 2.7, 2.8 right now. That's going to let you know exactly what kind of market that we're currently in. So a seller's market is going to be anything less than 6 months, and a buyer's market is going to be anything greater than 6 months. The lower you get to 0 for the seller's market, that's going to be, they have a lot more power in negotiations and a lot hotter of a market towards them. And the vice versa goes on the, or I guess, yeah, vice versa on the buyer side is the farther away you get from 6. So let's say you're at 12 months, a bigger buyer's market that's going to be, right? It also means that homes are lasting longer, because you have a greater supply at that point, right? So if we had no more homes come onto the market, they're saying right now, or at least our MLS is saying we have about 2.8 months worth of supply left before we'd legitimately just run out of homes at that point. Price range. Median sales price $2.4 million for Rumson, and a little bit of change there. That's going to be up about 8% from last year at this point in time, which is about 2.23. Interesting little note here. I mean, obviously, the sales price being up 8%, not uncommon for Monmouth County right now. We probably saw, I would say, double-digit appreciation numbers from like COVID time up until now. It's starting to cool just a little bit as inventory grows slightly, but obviously still a very hot area to live in. What I found kind of interesting, I don't know why this would be the case exactly, but 11 days on market previously, and now we're sitting at 22 days on market. But ironically, at the same time, we have, less supply. So even though the homes are sitting technically a little longer, we're not seeing as much listed at a given time, at least based on what I'm reading right here. In terms of number of sold listings, we're actually up 20% for Rumson. That's a nice number to see, considering in 2024 we had the lowest existing home sales in all of or over the last 30 years, and that's just not in New Jersey or Rumson. That's across the entire country, and we definitely saw the impacts here in Monmouth and Ocean County. But being that we're up 20% more, I mean, it's just 12 more sales for a smaller town like this. So if you're able to do 20% more in, a Freehold, Howell, Manalapan, like somewhere like that, where we usually see about 120 to 150 listings during the summer, it was actually a lot more, I'd say, pre-COVID. But just say what we've seen over the last 5 years, that number being a 20% increase at that point would be much more dramatic than just seeing more than 12 homes here. So, still positive, still good to see, but it's not like some dramatic shift in our real estate market, even though 20 looks like a pretty high number. Getting into, I guess, what kind of homes are going to be around Rumson? Well, it's mostly owned to be single family. I don't know of any adult communities in the area, and over the last year, none of them have been sold. When it gets to condos and townhomes, there are a few, not many, but there are some. And, believe it or not, these Rumson townhomes here, this community, probably going to be one of the cheaper homes you're going to see in general to get into Rumson themselves, right? If the medians was 2.4 and they're sitting under a million, kind of give you an idea. But single family residences are going to make up the majority of the sales here in Rumson. So it starts off at active, but I'll bring you down to the lowest price point. And that's going to be in that $780,000. Now, if I hear almost, let's just say eight, or even I guess this one that's pending like $900,000, I think the majority of people would think a relatively larger size home here in Rumson that's only going to get you about 1,260 square feet, approximate square footage. These homes are also going to be a little bit on the older side, built in 1942, 22, 22, 27. They might need a little bit of updating to them, but the fact that that's Rumson, you're paying to live here for the location, commuting to work, really good school systems. It's the nature of the beast about living here, closer to the water and the beach, being in Seabright. It's just a wild time. Most people, if you're in 1,200 square feet, you're thinking, I don't know, maybe $300,000 to $400,000 at the most. Um, it's double over here. And as you see, get a little bit more expensive. The homes start to increase in size a little bit more. We're getting to 1.3 million. You're seeing, 1,800 square feet, 1.4, you're getting 22, 2,300 square feet. And the list just pretty much goes on and on. In terms of the most expensive estate sold in all of Rumson, at least over the last 12 months. Currently, we have one listed for 12.5, but the biggest one or most expensive that was sold was 17,000 square feet, 11 point or just shy of $11.5 million. So that's the kind of homes that you're dealing with here in Rumson too at the same time. So you get anything from a 1,200 square foot ranch or cottage up to an $11 million estate. Make it make sense sometimes, right? But yeah, if you want to live in Rumson, you definitely have to fork over quite a little bit of money on that aspect. So not really too much more to go in that, I don't think, but very wide range. I would say if you're shopping, your bulk of your sales are probably be between that 1.3 range up to probably 4 million, I would say. So in between, if you even want to go a little bit higher and go into that $2 million range, I'd say yeah, $2 to $4 million is pretty much what you're going to be paying if you want to live in Rumson for relatively probably the same home you can find in another location in Monmouth County for anywhere between 1 to 1.5, maybe even a little bit, less. So moving on to just some of the shopping and dining options that we have here. Bring it back to the map view for you. Not going to be a ton, I would say, going on here in Rumson. They're not going to have, or actually, I guess if you've seen any of my other videos on either like Homedale or Colts Neck, they don't have, big box retailers in this area. A little bit stricter on the zoning and laws. But there's two different strips here. You're going to see for a couple different shopping options. You're going to have some cafes, some little shopping boutiques, the pharmacy, wine and spirits, liquor store. Nothing crazy, right? If you want your typical like food store, you go into Fairhaven over here, a little bit farther west on River Road. It's going to load for me here. Yeah. Well, I promise you there's an Acme right there. There we go, Acme Markets. So that's pretty much the closest thing you're going to get to that aspect. If you want to go a little bit farther outside of Rumson, a little bit different. Red Bank, again, if you've seen my other videos, probably one of the bigger shopping hubs that we have in the area. You're also going to have Little Silver, not sorry, not Little Silver, the Grove, and that's going to be in Shrewsbury. And right down here, we're kind of covered right now. But once you get into Long Branch and Pier Village, that's also going to be another big destination. So you're talking probably between those three sites right there. I don't know, anywhere between 120 to 150 different storefronts. So you're pretty much everything you're going to have to find or want to find in the area for shopping purposes will probably be in one of these three locations, I would imagine right there. So, and then if you really want to, just go up and down. Start in Red Bank, take the train, and go right into Long Branch too. So, just gave you a different option. But I would say for shopping options, that's relative what you're going to get, and it's pretty similar for the restaurants too. Now, I would say you have a little bit bigger of a selection. Barnacle Bill's up here to the northern side. It's going to be one of the hot spots here in Rumson between going out and then just enjoying a meal overlooking the water. Tommy's Tap and Tavern, they've been expanding a lot recently here in Monmouth County, going into, I think, Ocean now too. And one of the better, I would say, bar and restaurant foods in the area, at least in my opinion. They've gotten much, I got that English right there. They've gotten a lot more locations over the past couple of years. One of my favorite places to go eat. I love going to the Freehold location. They actually just opened one in Seagirt, not far from me either. So definitely want to check them out over there. But the Rum Runner is a nice little spot if you're looking to just go out and have a drink. Also, just a waterfront and seafood destination too. Woody's Ocean Grill. So there's quite a few different like higher end spots. You can go into Red Bank again, and the same thing's gonna be there. B2 Bistro, another place that has a couple different locations. Awesome spot to go to. Dublin House. I don't know if it's gonna pop up since I don't have um it's at the Red Bank, but yeah, Red Rock's a nice little location. Char Steakhouse is gonna be pricey, but nice bit of steak over there. Nice, again, a little pricey, but one of the better cuts. Trying to think what else, but yeah, it pretty much knocks it down for the Red Bank. You're gonna have, or I'm sorry, Rumson. Between Rumson, Red Bank, or going maybe into Long Branch, you're gonna have a plenty of different restaurants to head into, and it's gonna be hard to find a bad meal in that aspect. And then knocking it off with just some things to do in the area, um, living, near the water, or I guess technically depending on where your house is, possibly on the water, you're gonna have some options to go either, boating, fishing, jet skiing. So any type of water sport in this area is relatively going to be pretty high. A lot of people are gonna have different boats. You can head over to the beach. I would say your easiest and best option, in my opinion, would just be going over the bridge real quick and heading into Seabright. They're going to have different public and private beach options. So I don't know how much the beach clubs are. I've checked the websites before, and they were, they didn't really give you or lay out an exact number. So feel free looking into that. But those are two different ones. If you want to go just to something a little bit different, heading up here into Sandy Hook, often feel like it's kind of forgotten about sometimes, but they're going to have the beach and also just nice little attraction with the lighthouse a little bit farther up north. And you're also going to have a lighthouse here in the Highlands. You got the Twin Lights State Historic Site. It was like an old school. I don't know if I click on a little picture pop up. Yeah, kind of give you an idea. Almost looks like a little bit of a castle, right? But just again, a little bit of a history museum to go to, just something different, playing different parks and just nature in general around Rumson area. You can see the Navesink Country Club. So if you're into golfing and want to join a membership over there, not sure how exclusive it is. I don't belong, but just another option for you. Heading into Red Bank, if you want just a night out on the town kind of situation, the Core Basie Theater, they're going to host different comedy shows and plays over there. Again, different restaurants and bars. You have oh, what the heck's the name of it? Please hold. Teak, that's what it is. Teak restaurant and bar. So it's gonna be like a more of a restaurant during the day, bar, nightclub kind of at night. If you want to go for a bigger concert venue, head up in the Homedale PNC Bank Arts Center. So from like Rumson, you're gonna be over there, and somewhere along the Garden State Parkway over here, maybe like right there. Looks like it's probably that. Um, Different big names play there all summer long. I think they do concerts, I want to say from like May up until even October, somewhere in that range is usually their 5 to 6 month period when they're hosting concerts. I've seen Luke Bryant there. I know a lot of other big names play there too. It's a probably sits in between like 18,000 and 20,000 people. There's going to be indoor and outdoor. I should say indoor in quotations, I would guess. I would say covered seating in the one section. And then you're going to have the grass seats are going to be much cheaper on the outside border. So but there's also gonna be a much higher selection on the grass side or the grass seating versus being inside, right? But yeah, that's pretty much a little bit of a rundown about Rumson. You're gonna have your commute to work like we talked about, different school systems, the real estate prices, which are gonna be up there. Shopping and dining inside and around Rumson is very good. And same thing with the number of things to do. You won't go bored. great spot to raise a family. And if you are looking to move to the area, feel free to reach out. All my contact information is down low in the comments and description. So whether you're 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, even a year out, doesn't matter to me. Let's just get you on the right path towards your real estate goals. If you're looking to move to a different part of the, Central Jersey area, check out the videos popping up and hopefully they help you out a bit too. Have a great day.